the first episode of the Cates Project podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Cates. This is the start of something special. Today we have episode one. So today we're going to be talking about the mindset. It's going to be part one. Hopefully we can create a series out of this just to, ways to level up your mindset, ways to, look more positively on life, ways to, not only upgrade yourself, but upgrade the world around you. That's the ultimate goal of this, to become a better person day by day, to be able to look in the mirror and really, love the reflection that you see and, speak positively and, overall just become a better person because of everything. So like I said, this is the first episode. This is the start of something very special. So let's dive into it. So the first, topic of discussion we have today, when it comes to the mindset, is the power of negativity. And I feel like it is so normalized nowadays to, have a negative aspect on, the things that we go through, the things that we see, the situations we're in life. It's so much easier nowadays to be negative about everything than to, look through a positive lens, when it comes to life and, everything that goes into life. The first thing I'm going to talk about is, the smile example. So it is, proven scientifically that it takes more muscles in your face to create a frown than it does to create a smile. And I say this a lot just because, you walk around in your day-to-day life and you see so many people that, they look angry. They look like they're going through the worst day of their life, and they might be, but still, even on your worst days, you have to have a smile on your face. And I say that, and some people, are so negative. They're so, deep into the negativity that they'll either, because I'm always smiling, even on my worst days, you will always see a smile on my face just because of the power that a smile, has. And like I said, so many people will look at me smiling, or they'll hear that example and be like, dude, shut up. Or like, you're an idiot. That's not true. First of all, Google is free. The internet is free for us to, do our own research. So before, you try to say anything or you try to become negative towards me, you might want to do your research first. Because like I said, Google's free and it takes 2 seconds to Google anything. So, just having that smile on your face, it's gonna, in your endorphins will go up, everything, will change, even if, you're having the worst day of your life, if you just smile. Another example of this, especially nowadays, is we are stuck scrolling, like you will scroll through life. Like that's basically the world that we live in. Like I said, scrolling through life and fishing for praise. There are so many people nowadays that are on their phones for 8 to 9 hours a day, and the only thing that they're really looking at in that phone is all negativity, and especially like on TikTok. TikTok, for example, so many people that I know will sit on TikTok for hours and scroll, and if you ask them, well, what's one thing you learned, or tell me one video that you even remember watching, they can't do it, just because of how much, your mind just locks into it. That's why I try to stay off my phone. I try to, really live my life and, be 100% tuned in to, the world around me and the people that are around me, because, especially in today's world, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Your words truly mean something. That's another thing when it comes to, negativity in this world, is so many times nowadays people talk so negatively, not only about themselves, but about their job, about the life that they're in, about their friends, their family. And then people wonder why they live in, such a negative aspect at all times. The proof is in the pudding. Like I tell, my athletes or my friends or my family, your perception is truly your reality. So how you perceive, the world around you is the reality that you're going to live in at the end of the day. And if you're in a constant state of negativity all the time, oh, woe is me, I hate my job, I hate my life, I hate my family, my house, my car, whatever it is, the more that you say that, the more your brain is going to believe that. So you wonder why, you could have the best day of your life, but you're constantly saying these negative things. You wonder why you're so miserable, you know? Just having a positive outlook on things can change so much in your everyday life. Just looking in the mirror and telling yourself every morning that I love you can change almost everything. Everything is the power of your mind. Your mind has so much power to it that people don't truly understand, that their words mean something, especially when you're talking to other people. You have to get out of this norm. You have to, in order to be successful nowadays. I've told some people that I went to lunch with business and stuff like that, it is so easy to be great nowadays because so many people are so stuck on, the negative factors that they like to focus on instead of, man, you woke up this morning. Man, you have another opportunity to better yourself, not only mentally, but physically, emotionally. You have so much power truly in your hands and in this life that, get out of the negative aspect, get out of the negativity fully. That's only going to bring you down. um you have to be uncommon amongst the uncommon nowadays. Being uncommon is just not enough. Just because people will be uncommon but still just focus on the negative aspects over and over, and I'm not trying to say that I'm a perfect person by any means, and I want that to be extremely clear to whatever I do say on here or in future episodes. I'm not a perfect person. I'm still trying to upgrade myself every single day. But one thing that you will never see out of me is negativity. One thing you will never see out of me is the woe is me card or constantly talking bad about myself or others. That's just not what I believe in. You never know who is watching. That's another thing. Because somebody that you have a conversation with today could be your boss in 10 years down the line, 5 years, 2 years. Even the next day, you could realize, you're sitting here spewing out negativity. People will hear you. And the next day, you go in for a job interview, and it's like, oh my gosh, I saw that dude at the coffee shop when I was cussing up a storm, when I was being nothing but negativity. Do you really think that person's going to want you in their business? Absolutely not. So you have to be so careful about your words and realize that your words truly mean something. And that goes right into trying to be positive. Every situation, there's no such thing as a loss, and there's no such thing as negativity. There's no such thing as failure. Everything in this life is teaching you a lesson. That's how you have to go about it. That's how you shift the mindset from like, man, I lost today, or I didn't do my best today. But it's like, did you really lose, or is it teaching you a lesson about how you can be successful in the future, how you can become that champion in the future? We tend to only focus on the negatives in life instead of looking at the positives. It is such a blessing to be able to just be able to breathe, walk, talk, hear, just have your senses every single day. That's something that we look over so many times. And when I got hurt in college, when I was playing football, it really just, I couldn't run. I couldn't, do all the things that I enjoyed. And it really made me take a seat back and realize, like, man, there are so many people out there right now that would die to even be in the situation I'm in, to be able to walk, to be able to talk, to be able to see and, have all of my senses. There's so many people out there that would trade their lives, even on my worst days. They would trade their best days for my worst. That's what you have to realize, especially in this life, that there's so much more. You are so much more than just a time that you run or a statistic that you put up in a game or, the amount of anything. You're great on a test. You might have failed a test, but you're not failing in life. And that's the most important thing that you have to understand. Numbers are everywhere, but if you get lost in the numbers, it's so hard to come back. Like I said, everything is a lesson. You have to understand that, especially in this life, it's dog eat dog. So many people want to, put down others. They want to, you can put in as much work as you want. You can try as hard as you can to some people, and you'll never truly be enough. That's why you have to be enough for yourself. You have to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, how do you expect to love others? I mean, that's like, it's like, it's crazy to think about. And so many people are stuck in their ways. They think that, They have to go work this 9 to 5 for 40 years in order to, support their family and stuff. It's like, you need to bet on yourself. A lot of like, gambling, for example. You know, a lot of people spend so much time and effort and money gambling, but when are you going to bet on yourself? When are you truly going to lock in on yourself and realize that, like, man, if you stop betting all that money on other people and start betting on yourself, how much better your life is going to get. The power of the mind is no joke. And I say this a lot just because everything in this life is about 85 to 90% mental. If you wake up every morning and you believe that you're going to be great, if you believe that, you're going to have an amazing day, watch your day be amazing. Watch yourself continuously level up no matter what circumstances are thrown at you. And like I said, there's always going to be negativity. It's just how you have to, wade through the waters. You can't let anything bring you down, because the moment that you get caught up in all the negativity in this world is the moment that everything starts going downhill. You can't really get out of it. It's such a weird dynamic. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you got to just stay positive. You have to just keep a smile on your face, realize what this is teaching you and how you can be better and not make the same mistakes over and over. Like doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And I feel like nowadays a lot of people are driving themselves insane because they keep making the same mistakes. They keep waking up and thinking, dang, another day, I can't wait till the weekend. It's like, man, you need to live your life every single day. Tomorrow's never promised. This could be your last hour on earth. You never know when your time is coming. So you have to make the most out of it. The next thing is, if you don't truly like the life that you're living, change it. Move. You're not a tree. You're not stuck to the ground. You can do whatever you want. For example, I worked in sales for about a year. I worked a desk job, picked up the phone, and I met some of the most amazing people that I've met in my life. Some of the people that, have leveled me up and have helped me, get a better outlook on life, helped me see, the ins and outs and how life truly works. But that just wasn't the life for me. Picking up the phone and cold calling people, taking orders, billing out, like sitting at the desk for 9 hours a day, that just wasn't the life that I lived in. So I changed. I wasn't stuck. I realized that, the only person that's going to change anything in this life is myself, is me. Somebody's not going to walk in the door and be like, hey man, you want to, I'll give you $1 million out back if you want to just come do that. That doesn't happen. Unless you're like you have a trust fund, which 90% of us don't. You have to realize that you're in this for yourself. You have to bet on yourself. You have to go to bat for yourself. You have to, just look at life so much. There's so much more. You're so much more than that 9 to 5 at the desk. You're so much more than, the boss is getting paid, freaking $300,000 a year, and you're making barely 30K. You're so much more than that. You're so much more than just, numbers and everything like that. Like, we have so much vibrational energy to us. You have to just tap into it. You have to tap into that mindset. You have to realize that there's more to life out there than, working your life away and barely seeing your family, barely seeing your wife and raising your kids. Like, there's so much more to life than that. Just change. Like, if you truly don't like the situation you're in, change. Make a change. Make a difference. Try something different. Pick up a side gig, and if that side gig, gets big enough eventually, maybe that's your main. There's so much opportunities, especially in this world that we live in, to do something that's different from everybody else. But you're always going to have haters. That's the main thing. No matter what you do, you will always have people that try to bring you down. Like, somebody will probably watch this podcast, which is nothing but positivity, and I'm trying to get people to get up and do better for themselves. Somebody will view this negative. Somebody will leave negativity. The Instagram page that I run, Kate's Project, it is nothing but positive energy. But you'd be surprised how many people come at me negatively. Oh, yeah, why don't you post that on your little page? Or why don't you, you know what I mean? Like, so many people that, I thought were my friends throughout this life were only people that, were only in it for the ride. We're only in it for, what what I could give them or what they could get from me, or, everything like that. You have to just realize that there's gonna be people like that, because not everybody's gonna understand. There's so many small-minded people in this world that it's like, I want more for myself. I expect more. I want to better myself in any way that I can. And the next four things that I'm getting ready to touch on are just ways to level up yourself. And like I said, I'm not a perfect person, but guess what? I'm leveling myself up every single day, so I can look myself in the mirror and say, I love you. I love that person. I want to do better for you. I want to, be better for you. And not only for you, but for my family, for my future family, for, the people that are surrounding me every single day. I almost had a little spill there just because, I'm really passionate about this stuff. And I just want everybody to thrive. That's the biggest thing. No matter what you take out of this today, like, I just want you to be better. I want you to realize that you're more than whatever people tell you. You're more than, all the negativity that's in this world. And the first thing is you have to be impeccable with your word. Even on my worst days, I still carry a positive attitude. I still, will never, blare negativity at somebody. My grandma, my mom always tell me, like, hey, if you don't have anything positive to say, don't say it. Don't go up and ruin somebody else's day just because you're having a bad day. Be impeccable with your word. When we were little, especially me growing up, they always say, like, sticks and stones may break my bones, words will never hurt me. That couldn't be farther from the truth, because your words truly hold value. And you have to be impeccable. You have to say, what you believe, manifest things. Like, I want to be rich. I want to be, you know, I want to be a champion. I want to, be successful, or be the highest, paid person at, my job, or I want to start this side gig. I want to, whatever it is, you have to be impeccable and move, with intention. You have to be intentional. And the second thing is, and I, personally need to get better at this, is don't take anything personally. You never truly know what somebody else is going through in their days and their lives, their experiences. And, you just can never take anything personally, just because, like I said, somebody could be having the worst day of their life, and you might spill something, or, trip them on accident or anything like that, and they'll take it out on you. You have to just understand that everybody comes from a different background, comes from a different aspect of life, and, you should never take anything that anybody else says personally. I need to do, a lot of work on that myself, and just continue to, be better because of that. But, you can't take anything personally. You have to just keep your positive mindset, keep the mind rolling. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? Number three is do not make assumptions. And I feel like that's one of the biggest, downfalls of the world nowadays, because somebody will see somebody walking, and just because they have confidence and they love themselves, they'll look at somebody else and be like, you see that douchebag? Or like, you see him, he thinks he's better than others, when that couldn't be farther from the truth. That you just cannot make assumptions about people until you really get to know them, until you have a conversation with them, and you could realize, oh my gosh, like, he is actually, a positive, person. Has a good outlook on life. He, works his tail off every single day, but I'm going to judge him because of the way that he walks, the way that he carries himself. You could have one, you could be having the worst day of your life and run into somebody and, not be too, happy or joyful towards them, and then they think that you're like the biggest negative person on the earth, when that couldn't be farther from the truth, man. You have to stay away from drama. That's another thing. You know what? That'll be number four. We'll have 5 today, 5 points. You have to stay away from drama. People that get involved in drama, and they bicker back and forth about other people, like, that is nothing but pure negativity. For example, I've been in situations where, people will be hanging out with each other, and one person will leave the room, and everybody in that room will talk crap about that person where they're gone. I don't believe in that. That is pure negativity. That is nothing but bad energy. That, That's so awful. If you won't say something to somebody's face, don't say it behind their back. You know, like that's something that I take pride in, because if I have a problem with somebody, I will go to them. You know, I will say something to them. I'm not gonna sit there and talk behind their back about, so and so person just because I don't like something about them. Like that is so wrong and so negative, and you will get caught up in so much drama, and it will be nothing but negativity for the rest of, your day or the week. Or somebody will hear that you're talking crap about them or whatever it is, and then guess what? You don't have a friend anymore. You don't have somebody. You don't know who that person knows. They could, like I said, the world is so interconnected without even knowing it. You can go somewhere, like you could go across the country, and there could possibly be somebody from your hometown or somewhere around you, and you're like, man, we have that connection right away. That's what's crazy about life. The world is truthfully so small. If I had $1 for every time I've said, like, man, small world, you know, and somebody watching this could probably relate that. Like, man, that person was literally 5 minutes away from me at one point. Like, this is crazy. And then, number 5 is always do your best. My grandpa always told me, he's like, man, if you're going to do something in this life, if you're truthfully going to give effort to something, why not do your best? Why half-ass something? Why go into something with, all these high intentions, like, oh, I'm going to do it, and then not do it? You have to do your best. You have to put your best foot forward every single day. And if you're going to come in and, gas something or freaking sandbag something, what's the point of even doing it? What's the point of, wasting your time and energy? And at the end of the day, wasting somebody else's time and energy. There's no point in that. You always have to do your best. You always have to, you just give your effort, man. Like that's something that bothers me too, is a lot of people get into situations and that they just don't do what they're supposed to do. Why are you here then? What is the point of you even coming into this situation if you're not gonna, try to thrive or do your best? There's no point in it. Like, just go do something else. Like, like, you have to do stuff that you're passionate about. And if you're not passionate about it, get out. Because guess what? Somebody is, and somebody, you're going to make that job or whatever it is look bad because you come in and half-ass everything. So many times I see so many people, complain about their job once again and just like go off on these rants. And it's like, dude, make a change. Do something different, but always do your best when you're there. Like for the sales job, for example, did I enjoy it? Sometimes, yes. Most of the time, not really. But was it a way for me to support myself and support my family? And did I always do my best? Absolutely. There wasn't a day that I walked in and I'm like, man, I'm going to be average today. Or, man, I'm going to half-ass it today. Like, let's just take a little half-ass day. Like, absolutely not. I gave my best every single day, and that's how you have to be in this world if you truly want to, level yourself up or give yourself a better mindset. And to end this today, I'm a very passionate person, and when it comes into the coaching world, I'm loud, trying to bring energy, because today there's so much energy that is lacked, especially in athletics. It's like, if you're not going to be passionate and love what you do, what's the point of doing it? Again, like, give your best, give your all. And to end this today, the biggest thing that I can tell you is make somebody smile today. Give somebody that compliment, or just be a good person. Try to lift somebody up that's you see is having a rough day or having a rough go. Like, try to level that person up. Try to, be the best version of yourself today that you can. And I appreciate whoever truthfully listens to this entire thing, and hopefully, you can level up your mindset in some way. Like I said, this is just part 1 of the mindset, and I'm going to have, more people. It's not just going to be me every single time on these little rants and podcasts. Like, I'm going to have more people, but I just wanted to start off, the channel, start off, everything with just myself and just what I believe in when it comes to the mindset and how I go about my day-to-day life. And hopefully this can just motivate somebody and you can do whatever you want in this life. You can be whoever you want, but it all starts with yourself. You can have somebody else believe in you all day. I tell this to my athletes all the time. I'm like, man, I believe in you. I love you. Do you believe in you? Do you love yourself enough to get up and want to do your best? Do you, believe that, like, if you want to change anything, if you want to lose weight, if you want to become, better at your job, do the little things. Especially in this life, you have to be uncommon amongst the uncommon. If you truthfully want it, how bad do you really want it? If you're not going to do all the little things. So I appreciate everybody taking the time, and if you truthfully like this video, please, share it with people, share it with somebody that needs to hear this mindset, needs to hear, you know, these words, and please leave a like, please leave a subscription, please just help me, grow this channel and grow the positive outlook on life that some people need to hear, just because